I'd like to open with the official explanation from MOCA, which reads, "The Geffen Contemporary Building is located on a special historic site. Directly in front of the north wall is a Go for Broke monument, which commemorates the heroic roles of the Japanese-American soldiers who served in Europe and the Pacific during World War II. Opposite the wall is the LA Veterans Affairs Hospital. The museum's director explained to Blue that in this context, where MOCA is a guest among this historic Japanese-American community, the work is inappropriate." Blue was paid 10,000 euros commission by Jeffrey Deitch to paint his mural on the side of the museum. To me, a straightforward work-for-hire transaction. By accepting the money, Blue put himself in the position of a laborer who has to perform according to the client's wishes. Deitch allowed Blue the leeway to paint his mural without prior approval of the design, obviously trusting that Blue would paint a mural in keeping with the confrontational but non-political nature of the work within the galleries. Instead, Deitch got something he didn't want, and he decided to buff it, a right he reserves as a client who commissioned the work. Deitch personally told me that upon his return to LA, the mural was 85% finished, and he informed Blue of his intention to buff it, giving him the option of finishing it before erasure or designing a new mural. Blue commented on his blog, "I didn't feel so motivated to spend more time on it once I learned it was going to disappear the day after. I am stupid, but not a masochist." It was Blue's choice to finish the existing mural even under those circumstances. It cannot be considered censure if he was aware that the image was unacceptable and would get buffed, yet decided to continue on with it. On the contrary, it shows that Blue was fully aware of the controversy that would result and chose publicity over completing the job according to the client's wishes. The Art in the Streets exhibition was organized and curated by Jeffrey Deitch, Roger Gassman, and Aaron Rose with help from Ethel Sino. The most difficult process of this show probably wasn't determining who would be in the show. Artists like Banksy, Shepard Fairey, or Chaz Bohorquez are obvious. The difficulty was deciding which artists and crews would not be included. The Los Angeles Fine Arts Squad and the Chicano Artist Collective ASCO and other individuals were excluded because they didn't meet the criteria for the show. That's a curatorial decision, and in a similar fashion, Deitch's decision that Blue's mural would detract from the overall show is a strictly curatorial choice, not censorship. As curator of the show, Deitch has ultimate veto power. Blue commented on his blog, "A very interesting debate is happening on the internet, and wonders of rhetoric, the word censorship magically disappears. And now you can call it curatorial choice. I almost totally agree with this interpretation. It is, in fact, a curatorial choice." How much longer do we have? There are certain parameters to street murals, and one of those is an understanding and respect for the location that is chosen. Blue obviously didn't scope his surroundings, or he would have realized that adjacent to MOCA there is already a very effective display dedicated to America's wartime duplicity. The nearby Go for Broke monument is dedicated to Nisei, volunteers who fought in the American Army in World War II, even though their relatives had been sent to internment camps. It's not insensitivity to this memorial that makes Blue's mural unacceptable, it's the redundancy of his message.
So actually, instead of responding, I'm just going to complain about art in Los Angeles, kind of everything I've censored myself from saying, because I've seen a lot. You know, there's more to writing for artillery than not paying for Latin ticketed shows, and arguing to the standard about why I should get a discount room rate. This isn't over, by the way. So let's start with LA museums. I mean, people are always arguing that we're just as good as New York, right? Because New York has the Guggenheim, designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, and we have the underground basement that is MOCA. I mean, they get the Met, and we get the safest place to be during a tornado. Then there's the Getty. Thanks, but if I wanted to be stuck in traffic for hours to see bad art, I'd just go to the Aaron Brothers in Santa Monica. And then, you know, there's all this talk of the Metro Gold Line across the city. If they really wanted to help connect things, why don't you use it to connect the 100 buildings of LACMA with the 3 different MOCA'S? I mean, I get winded trying to see all the exhibitions whenever I go. And then worst of all, there's the Hammer, which, actually I've never been, and I don't know. I think it's just Ed Ruscha and metal sculptures, from what I gather. Then they try to make up for the art shows. Enough with giving me your magazines and postcards. I have enough garbage in the back seat of my car. I don't... Except artillery. I really wanted to help artists worthwhile combine art fairs and job fairs. I think that would be the best thing to do. Galleries. You know, they proved that LA's motto should be, LA, we create art that can go on skateboards. Okay, it's not fair. I mean, the galleries do show a wide range of art. There's the Pale Lolitas, the Mark Ryden post-Ryden School. There's cartoon animals doing non-cartoon things, the La Luz de Jesus School. And then there's... I'm sure there's more. I mean, I'll try to think of some as I keep going. And then the gallery artists who always say collectors include Brad Pitt, Nicolas Cage, John Travolta. That makes sense because we know how great their taste is given the movies they make. Then artist bios, my college lit professor would say they're too pretentious. When there's some generator, you just put in the words explore, interested in dichotomy, and impulse, and it just spits one out. Seriously, I've read less pompous prose in artillery. But then we have, at least we have the art openings. DJs, alcohol, the sweet, sweet smell of KCRW and Nerd. They give out Buddy Holly glasses when you walk in, like when you go to a 3D movie, they just hand you the specs. We have all these esoteric vodkas giving out free samples. It's like a Costco for alcoholics. We're artists and writers, which really is just a synonym for alcoholics. They should just combine show openings and AA meetings. But if they really wanted to appeal to artists, 30 seconds, they should give away free samples of Xanax and Prozac. And actually, apologies, I had a lot more to say about the subject of this debate, but not knowing how you'd respond, I wanted to be sensitive and protect you from anything that might be offensive.
I only have one. I have several questions. One of those, why the fuck do you live here? Actually is, did you ever sell a painting to Nick Cage? Because I did. Actually, but I do agree with my worthy opponent about the sick nature of the LA art world. But that, I noticed that you didn't mention the word blue once, except maybe as a color. I'd like to actually quote Shepard Fairey, the #2 street artist in the world. He says here, I chose to engage in street art for its democracy and lack of bureaucracy. However, a museum is a different context with different concerns. Street art or graffiti purists are welcome to pursue their art on the streets, as they always have, without censorship. I think that though MOCA wants to honor the cultural impact of the graffiti and street art movement, it exists in its purest form in the streets only.
Okay.
Yes.
You've got another minute.
Yeah, I got another minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any of that Xanax with you? Having done graffiti on the streets, I came to the realization that no matter how hard it was to do and no matter how good I made the piece look, it was going to get painted over. Whether it was by another tagger or it was the owner of the building, I went out on the streets and I knew that the piece possibly wouldn't be up within 2 or 3 hours after I painted it. I think that when Blue did that, he should have anticipated that his piece could get disfigured by another graffiti artist, or it could have been by the institution. But would it be censorship if Chaka showed up with a fire extinguisher and wrote his name in 20-foot highlighters? I don't think so.
Thank you, Anthony.
This debate should be with Blue, Deutsch, Broad, and the veterans, not between me and Michelle Bachmann. But it's a taste of what censorship could lead to. Can we see the next one? I mean, what if they thought that this was insensitive to post-Tyrannosaurus stress disorder and decided to whitewash this? We need to talk about free speech. Speech needs to be heard before it can be called speech. And MOCA and Deutsch unilaterally decided to block our ears. They didn't even let us see the piece. Deutsch prevented people from having thoughts, feelings, or a conversation. The piece of censored art was doing what art should do. If we censor, we don't even allow the dialogue to occur. And, oh, it's about sensitivity. Sensitivity to who? I mean, we're talking about veterans, and shouldn't they be able to decide for themselves? And many vets supported it. Blue said they liked the mural, finding it truthful. And isn't freedom from censorship one of the main values that veterans fight for? Next one. Vietnam vet Michael Lindley, president of the LA chapter of Veterans for Peace, showed up to support the mural when it was being taken down and said, as veterans, that's what we fight for. That's what we died for. Our government tells us we're fighting for our freedoms, yet they take away our own freedoms away in our own country.
Yep. All right.
I would like to point out that actually he wasn't speaking. The freedom of speech applies to speech and not imagery, maybe. Anyway. Fuck you.
Hey.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna, okay. In terms of legal issues are such that the California Art Preservation Act, Section F, Paragraph 1, reads, if a work of fine art cannot be removed from a building without substantial physical defacement, mutilation or alteration or destruction of the work, the rights and duties of the artist shall be deemed waived. Also, under the Visual Artists' Rights Act, artists cannot effectively veto decisions to remove their work from their benefactor's property, as VARA does not protect location as a component of site-specific work, whatever that means.
Okay.
Condoms, these are condoms of Deutsch. Interesting footnote, though, these did hold up when Deutsch bent over to take it from Bro. And I ask, what's more offensive? Instead of siding with the artist, Deutsch chose not to risk the chance that anti-war images might upset some people. Finally, let's end with the MOCA mission statement. I want to draw your attention to one line. MOCA identifies and supports the most significant and challenging art of its time. That's what this piece was. So what's more offensive? Endless wars, suicide epidemic among veterans, or preventing people from seeing art that some might find unpatriotic? And don't time out. That's censorship. So
I really don't give a shit whether it's censored or not, to be honest with you. I personally found it a very ugly piece of art, and I was very glad to see it go. I think Blue is capable of much better work. I don't think he put himself entirely 100% into it. I think it sucked. And I actually was glad that it was gone.
So the debate was about, sensitivity and censorship. And was it insensitive? Yes. It was insensitive to decide that veterans cannot think for themselves. And it was censorship because an artist was not allowed to express his ideas. And my opponent did quote Blue saying it is in fact a curatorial choice. But Blue went on to say that involves the censorship of a mural. You forgot to mention the final line of this.
Yes, you're right, I did.
Now, during all of this, we haven't shown the mural, and that was on purpose because I didn't want to offend any potential veterans in the audience and create a dialogue by showing you the image. So, finally, let's show the image. Oh, there is no image.
This is so fun. All right, this is a tough one, actually. I was surprised. I thought I was one-sided, but who agrees with Anthony that it is okay and it was sensitivity and Deitch had every right? Josh, who thinks that that was totally uncool to cover them up.